All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 10th episode of Aim with DNK. I welcome you all on this lovely evening. And most importantly, happy Teachers' Day to all the people who are joining and all those who wished me. Thank you so much for the lovely wishes. Uh, as always, we'll wait for a few minutes to get started. And yes, today's topic is going to be super interesting. We're going to talk about market research and sectoral analysis. So, if you are somebody who is an aspiring entrepreneur, somebody who is looking for sectors to get started in, who's looking for a detailed analysis across sectors, I think this episode is going to be very, very important for you and going to have super fun today. So, I, of course, have a lot of data with me today to talk about. So, yep, we will get started in a few seconds. And if you have any questions, meanwhile, feel free to post your questions into the chat. So, yep, let's get started. All right. So, yep, as I said, this is the 12th episode. And sorry, this is the 10th episode. And today the topic is market research and sectoral analysis. For all those who don't know me, my name is Dilnawaz. I'm the founder of a company called Codesign Labs and PowerDeck. Basically, I am an entrepreneur with a decade-long experience across design, technology, and startup incubation industry. And previously, I have worked very closely with startup OSS, CII, and Unitas Ventures. I am prominently very, very active into the state of Rajasthan and across North India in terms of startup ecosystem. So, what is Aim with DNK? For all those who do not know, Aim with DNK is a weekly Saturday night live stream that I host exclusively on my YouTube channel, where I talk about what I love the most, that is startups. So, today we sit together, we talk about startups, and we try and go into detail about startups and topics around that. So, on AMAV DNK, as I said, I talk about startups, pitching, funding, etc., and basically anything that can help you to become a better entrepreneur. And of course, as the name suggests, I also pick up a few questions that you guys, while watching, post in chat, or a couple of other questions that I picked up from Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or other places. Right. So if you have any questions during the session, feel free to post them into the chat, and I will be picking them up during the end of the session. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, so all those who are watching today, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, before we get started with today's discussion, I would sincerely and honestly, I would request you, please go and press that subscribe, that red button below, and also hit the like button, because if you do that, the YouTube algorithm tells more people that it is the content worth watching. So please make sure you have subscribed to the channel, you have pressed the icon before we get started, and most importantly, you go and press that like button. So, yep. So as I said, today we're going to talk about this topic called market research and sectoral analysis. So before I jump into today's discussion, let me try and set some context for you guys so that you understand why are we talking about market research and sectoral analysis today. So if you have seen the last episode, which was the episode number 9, we spoke primarily about how to validate the idea. So most of the people who's my target audience, primarily students and early stage entrepreneurs, they often come and ask that how do we validate an idea, or how do we analyze the problem that we face. And another very important question that comes from the people who watch my content is that if they have multiple ideas, how do they analyze or pursue what idea to go into. And in the last episode, we spoke about idea validation from the internal perspective, and we discussed tools like SWOT, Ikigai, design thinking, idea matrix, and tools like those. And I'm sure if you haven't watched that video, go and watch that particular video. Will give you a lot of insights and analysis around how can you do an internal introspection about your personal capabilities and your team's capability in terms of evaluating an idea, or kind of pursuing an idea or pursuing a problem, right? So last episode we spoke primarily from the internal point of view, right? But today we are now going to look at things from the external perspective. So a lot of people ask me this question that, hey, what idea can we pursue, or what sector should we get started in, or what are the opportunities in a specific sector? I have been talking at multiple forums, I've been talking at multiple multiple colleges, multiple incubators, I've been delivering multiple workshops, and these are the questions, these are the points that I often get from people, where they say that, they're enthusiastic about getting started but don't know what idea to pursue. They are enthusiastic to get started but are juggling between multiple sectors, or don't know what sector they want to kind of get into. And most importantly, a lot of times people know the sector they belong to because they have the domain expertise, but they can't analyze the opportunities into that sector, right? And and of course, I, as an external person, or maybe nobody who's an external guy, cannot come and tell you uh, what idea to pursue, or what sector to get into, or what opportunity to pursue into that particular sector. Because see, we are external people. I may or may not have the understanding of that particular sector from about which you're asking me the question. So I'll give an example. So I have a very strong understanding of, let us say, edtech sector. I have built and run a edtech business, and I've run it for a couple of years and generated a couple of lakhs in revenue, right? And which eventually we had to shut down because of some certain reasons, but we'll not talk about that. But that edtech education, that edtech business, primarily focused on engineering uh, students, primarily college students, and was into imparting technical knowledge. So I go and tell people that I'm a great mentor when it comes to speaking or mentoring somebody about technology or building a edtech business for college students in tier 2 and tier 3 city, right? But I am the worst mentor, or I think I am not the right mentor, right fit when it comes to building a edtech business for schools, because I have not built any business that serves or caters to school students, right? So uh, therefore, you also need to pick and choose a mentor who is the right fit, or who has got an experience of building the business in that particular sector. That's the great mentor. But having said that, for example, I also might not have an answer to the question that, if you come and ask me about agri tech, or health tech, or biotech, I might be not the right guy. So I'm a great guy when it comes to digital, I'm a great guy when it comes to technology, I'm a great guy when it comes to ed tech, I'm a great guy when it comes to SaaS based products, because I build businesses, design, I build businesses around these sectors. But I'm the worst guy to get advice onto medical, med tech, agri tech, and sectors like these. Of course, I can, although I can generically advise you on branding, marketing, packaging, positioning, but not, I don't have the domain expertise. Now, even despite the fact the mentor may or may not have understanding of all these areas, in today's discussion I'm going to give you access to, or I'm going to tell you certain tips and tricks and tools using which you can do your you can do market research around your own startup, and also uh, take analytical decisions whether you want to pursue that particular problem, idea, sector or not. And and other than that, also most importantly, I'm going to talk about uh, a few upcoming hot sectors that, if you think you have time, and if you're able to build skills into those areas, you can pursue those sectors, because those are really hot sectors. I'll give you enough backing data in terms of to prove that, right? So we are going to divide the entire conversation into two parts. We're going to, one, talk about the market research part and the tools and tools and techniques around that, and then of course, most importantly, we're going to analyze a couple of upcoming hot sectors, couple of opportunity areas where you, as a startup enthusiast, can look into and get started into. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about now. Before we jump into that, there are we have already spoken about the main reasons why a startup fails. In past session also, and even before that, if you check out episode number 7 where I spoke about the survival techniques for startups, if you check out last episode where I spoke about idea validation, other than the team, the skill set, the running out of fund, and of course multiple other factors, there are 2 to 3 internal factors that also lead to the startup failure. So One is lack of planning, another is lack of creating a substantial differentiator, and another is lack of competition. So a lot of times entrepreneurs are driven by their own assumption. They feel and believe that what they are doing is correct, and they believe that what they want to get done or what they are doing is absolutely fine. So this is one line that I quote a lot of places, that all the entrepreneurs go by the assumption that if I build, they will come. And this applies to both customers and investors. They think and they believe that if they're building the product, the customer will come. If they believe that if they're building the product, the investor will come, which is not the right case. You have to understand and analyze whether your product have that product market fit where the customer would buy it. And also you need to have that product market fit where you figure out and realize that you have that right fit for the market where investor would buy from you, or investor would be willing to fund you, right? So do not go by the sole assumption that what you're building might work. And this also happens when you have lack of information from the customers, lack of input from the customer's point of view, and also a lack of data. So as quoting my last video, I gave you enough tools to do internal introspection. I gave you certain steps that using which you can go out and talk to customers. You can do customer surveys, you can do research, you can do interviews, you can do both subjective and objective surveys. But also you need to do a broader level market research. Now here is the most critical point that all of you watching this need to understand, that one of the biggest factors for any startup to raise funding, and this should uh, be like a very important critical point for you to understand. One of the very important critical factors for any startup to raise fund, other than the team, is being in the right market and having the right market size, and that market should be a hot sector. I'll repeat what I just said. I'm saying that you need to be in the right market, which should have significant big size, and you need to be in the hot sector. What do I mean by that? I mean by that is that, let us say, if the entire market size you're trying to get into is too small, let us say entire market size is just 100 crores across the country, you will never ever be able to forget become a unicorn, which is like a $1 billion valuation. That means if I go by the current dollar rate, 7400 crores, you will not reach that worth. Forget about that. You'll not even be able to raise couple of $1 million in terms of funding, because 100 crores, if I go by the 74 rupee factor, uh, $1 million dollar is roughly 7.4 crores. That means your total market size would be less than 10 million dollars, right? Or roughly to $15 million. That means that your entire market size is $15 million. How will a venture capitalist come and invest 100 crores in a company when the entire market size is 100 crores, right? If you're not able to understand, let me once again try and explain. The point I'm trying to make here is, if the market size is not big enough, the investor will not be able to make out 10x return, or will not be able to get 10x return. If the investor is not able to make 10x return, or if there's not a possibility of seeing that this business can give 10x return, the investor will not give you the money. Therefore you are into a space which is non-investable. Therefore you are a non-investable startup. So therefore you need to figure out and understand that you have to be in a good enough market size. You have to have a growing market, and you need to be in a hot sector. These all points combined together make the sector lucrative enough and make you a startup which is worthy, or which might raise investment. And as I said, other than team and the domain and the IP and all these things, this market size, hot market, is also another factor that makes you investment worthy or not. So this is the reason why you as an entrepreneur needs to figure out what sector you are getting into. And this is the reason why I'm also going to talk about in by the time we end this session today. That's the reason why also going to talk about a few of the upcoming and hot sectors. So if you haven't figured out uh, what sectors to be in, or you haven't figured out the area you want to be in, if you haven't figured out the idea you want to pursue, maybe these sectors and my internal analysis, my research around these sectors should give you a stepping stone to kind of move ahead. Okay. All right. So let's stick till the end. And meanwhile, if you have any questions, feel free to post them into the in comment section. So therefore, this is the context of today's session to help you understand, which we have already done internal introspection. We have done that already in the previous episode. To help you understand the external introspection, we are going to talk about that in detail, and also to talk about certain hot sectors, which, if you haven't figured out an idea or opportunity yet, you should look into as an investment opportunity, which will make you money or are investable, right? So what is market research? So let's understand that because a lot of myths and which are the wonderment of research. So what is market research? So if I look at the definition, it is basically a process of gathering external information or information from the outside world, from the real world, from the market, which will make you more aware and will give you enough data, will give you enough decision power to figure out what works and what does not work. It will basically help you to figure out what sells, what works, what does not work, primarily from the potential customer point of view and potential product and services point of view. So if you are able to gather enough data from potential customers about building the right product, and it's an external introspection I'm talking about, you will be able to take more calculative decisions. You'll be able to take better decisions. So basically, if I have to summarize it in two words, the gathering information or the process of gathering correct information from the correct user base is the market research. So it will enable you to identify the target market. It will enable you to figure out the target customer, the early adopters of your product. It will enable you to figure out the right price point, the right competition. It will help you to figure out the unfair advantage or the disruption in the market, or the defensibility in the market, and things like that. So if you are able to create or do correct market research, you basically, again, just like what you did in internal introspection and idea validation, you mitigate your failure, you mitigate the risk of failure. So therefore, wherein 90% of the startups fail because of lack of data, you have enough data to take more better calculated decisions, and of course in the long run you can pivot the business accordingly. So as I said, again, quoting back two of the episodes, go back and watch survival strategies episode. I think it's episode number 5. Go back and watch the market business model episode number 3. I have given all these basic fundamentals in those episodes. Go and watch them and like them. Okay. So another very critical and important thing, where a lot of entrepreneurs I find getting confused, is that they compare market research with marketing research. So market research and marketing research have a significant differentiation between both of them. So wherein market research is more like, if I have to give you one mantra, one line which can define or create a differentiator for you, market research is pre-launch and marketing research is post-launch. So you basically do market research to gather information to take decisions in order to what to launch or what not to launch, or where to launch, at what price point, who's the competition. Wherein marketing research is the mechanics, is the process of uh, finding whom to sell and how. So wherein market research is more about the customer and the product, marketing research is more about the advertising and sales. That's the clear differentiator. So marketing research would involve, let us say, digital marketing. It would need the creation of social media campaign and creation of jingles and things like that. It's post launch. Market research is a pre-launch activity. Do not ever get confused between market research and marketing research, most importantly. Now, having said that, so understanding your customers and their preference, identifying opportunities. So now let me tell you 5 important critical points or 5 reasons why you should do the market research. And this is where I summarize everything together, whatever context I have set you up till for you up till now. So 5 points why market research is very critical for every early stage startup or every pre-launch startup. So 5 reasons why market research is critical for your startup. One, it helps you to understand your customer and their preferences. It helps you to figure out who's the customer, what do they need, whether they'll buy the product or not, and if they buy, what will they buy. Second, it also helps you to identify opportunities to grow and increase sales and profits eventually. So you are, before even you launch the product, you're able to figure out the areas of opportunities, and you start working around those areas. Another point is, the third point is, you recognize and plan for industry and economic shifts. uh, Quoting back my episode number 3, a lot of businesses who were working on a brick and mortar model, a lot of businesses who were not adopting as per digital, as per the market, literally lost the battle during COVID times, wherein a lot of businesses who were taking care of what's happening in the world, who analyzed the market beforehand, not only made a lot of money in short term, but also made lot of money, and in fact raised billions and millions of dollars even during COVID times. You'll be surprised to know that almost half like a $500 million funding, even more than that amount of money, has already been raised by Indian startups in the pandemic, in the COVID times. So the point I'm trying to make here is that if you are aware, if you navigate correctly, if you pivot correctly, if your business model is as per the modern time, in the current time, nothing will uh, nothing can destroy you. But if you are stuck with the old belief or something that you think is right, you're for sure going to die with time. And we have seen this happening with not just smaller companies, but even with giants, right? So yeah, recognize and plan for the industry and economic shifts. You need to be very, very aware as an entrepreneur. Also, fourth point of why you should do market research, it helps you to identify, monitor your competition in the market. So it is not just the overall global or local economic shift and the industrial shift, but also enables you to keep a watch on what your competitor is doing. It enables you to keep a watch on what's happening in the market, what's your competitors move, and therefore you can again navigate your path accordingly. And last but not the least, from an overall broad point of view, it helps you to mitigate the risk in taking the business decisions. So I can go and on and on and on, but I don't want to kind of just keep on talking about this. uh, Market, I cannot emphasize enough how important and critical market research is for you as a business. So now, what do you need to do the market research, right? So let's talk about what do you need so that you can do market research, and then of course we'll move on to the sectoral analysis. So number one thing that you need for market research is customer profiling. If you do not know how to do customer profiling, there's a separate video on the Codesign Labs channel on uh, if you give me a second, I can give you the link to that video, which is on market research on Codesign Labs channel. Give me a second to share that with you. Okay. Yep, this is the video. So if you go and watch this video, as I said, the most important, the first thing, here you go, guys. This is the link to the video. So all those who are watching can refer to this video in the chat later on, right? So this is a video which will enable you to and figure out how to create a customer profile, because without creating the customer profile, you will not be able to uh, get into the market or identify who's the right customer and then reach out to them. And why do you need the customer profile? Because as I said already, you as a startup, you are running short on resources. You have less money, you have less time, you have less resources, less muscle power. Therefore, every day, every minute, every second, every rupee counts. So make sure you're investing your time in the correct direction, the right direction. Therefore, you need to plan a lot better. And do the first step before you jump into market analysis is figuring out the custom profile. I've given you the link on how to create a custom profile. Go and create the custom profile for your startup. Second, once the customer profile is done, you of course need to reach out to these guys. You need to do surveys, you need to do interviews, objective, subjective, those sort of things. These are two things. Now, third and the most important and critical part is gathering data from public sources that tells you about the industry size and also tells you the growth of that particular sector. Okay, now I'll give you an example before I tell you what is this all about. So for example, if you Go, if you go to any investor and tell them that, hey, the e-commerce market is almost like a 200 billion or like a 300 billion dollar market in India, and I want to create a company in e-commerce sector, none of the investors are going to fund you anymore, at least not in 2020 now, because there are two to three critical reasons for that. One, of course, Flipkart already sucked out entire money available for generic e-commerce in the market. Number one. Number two, with the introduction of GeoMart, the market has become more competitive and more difficult. So, of course, no matter who you are, you cannot go and compete with Reliance or Ambani. So, therefore, that means that market, no matter how innovative, how great, how how disruptive your idea of creating e-commerce business is, in 2020 none of the investors going to give you money to start another e-commerce venture. Of course, existing businesses may or may not be able to raise money. That's a different topic, different debate altogether. But if you want to start an e-commerce business now, not happening anymore. What do I mean by that? I mean that despite being the market big enough, and despite being the highest growing, one of the highest growing sectors, with very high CAGR, almost like a 20, 25, 30% CAGR, you might not be able to raise external money for e-commerce. Therefore, uh, external analysis, gathering data about market size, gathering data about market research, gathering data from public sources, gathering data about industry, gathering data about growth percentage. All of these are very, very important. Of course, hot sector and who's your competition is important to analyze and figure out whether you're in the right direction or not. So now the third point, as I was speaking about the tools, you need to gather data from public sources, you need to gather data from commercial sources, and you need to gather data from third party websites, third party tools which are reliable. For example, in India, you can go and gather data from Invest India, if that's the base you are considering, right? And if you're a big company, funded company, or if you have some sort of money, you can go and hire research firms. But again, that will be a lot of money, and of course, a startup cannot afford to hire a research company, or a startup cannot afford to do a big research themselves in terms of gathering the market insights. So therefore, a lot of data available in public domain, public sources, commercial sources, and of course data from the Invest India will, we can use that data as a base. And then there's another website called IBFC, if I'm not wrong. I can quickly tell you about those websites where you can get this data. I guess IBEF. So let me again paste these two links in the chat so that you can access these websites later on. Okay, one of them is this, and another is, so both of these websites that I've posted the link in will give you enough insights, will give you some sort of insight, some sort of information about uh, you doing the market research, and this can act as a very basic level of material for you, so that people can investors can trust you basically, right? Or you can create the base level data for investors. I know today's topic might be a little tricky or little technical, but I think this is, you need this information, you need this data, you need this material to reach out to investors basically, and this is where the entire make or game kind of makes or breaks. This is you need this information in order to prove to investors that what you are uh, saying basically works, right? Okay, all right. So moving ahead from here, so now summarizing all of this together before we move on to the sectoral analysis, summarizing all of this information together, you need to have a custom profile. I've given you the link for that. You need to create surveys and interviews. I've given you the link for that. And most importantly, you need to gather data from public sources, commercial sources. You can go and hire research firm, or you can refer to websites like IBEF or Invest India that give you base level data. In my experience of building pitch decks, and I've almost worked with more than 1,000 startups, maybe more, far more. I've gone through almost 4,000 pitch decks myself in my experience. A lot of times, startup founders are not able to write and figure out the market research data. And this is one slide where the entire investment game makes or breaks. If you are not able to do the correct market research, if you're not able to produce good market research data, you will not get investment. I am fine if you find this session a little technical, as I'm saying, but this is very, very critical. This is very, very important for you to raise money and funding. If you do not do it, you'll not get money or you'll not get investment. Now, once you have analyzed all of these things, there's another point I want to talk about, the things you need to consider while doing market research. There are a couple of pointers I want you to talk about and work on while doing the market research. So if you have all these pointers on the tip of your fingers, if you know all this, if you know all this data, if you know enough insights about all these pointers, there's a higher chance of you getting funded, folks. Because if you know where do you lie in the market, investors are definitely going to fund you. So now let me give you a couple of pointers, things to consider while doing market research, or while going for market research. So one, you need to have the entire industry insights and potential market size. Industry insights and potential market size. Make sure you have that data on your fingertips. If you do not know what's the industry size, if you do not know the potential market size, if you do not know at what rate the industry is going, you will not get money. So you need to have that data on your fingertips and with a right source and reference available first. Second, you need to have some sort of the analysis from the audience. You need to have a very critical and mathematical analysis done from the market audience size or the customer size or the audience size. That's second. I think I've already spoken about the market size. You can pick it up from any third party tool. Another thing that a lot of people do not calculate or are not able to calculate is called TAM, SAM, and SOM. Total addressable market, serviceable market, and share of market or serviceable obtainable market. A lot of entrepreneurs are not able to calculate that. I will give you a link of this particular how to find TAM, SAM, SOM later on in the chat once the episode ends. So come back later on, refer it to, and kind of figure out TAM, SAM, SOM for your market. If you are not able to find and figure out TAM SAMs of your market, which means you do not know the total addressable market, you do not know where you're going to serve, and you do not know the projected value of the market you're going to capture in 2 to 3 or 5 years, you are doomed, my friend. So it is going to be really, really tough for you. Two more factors that you need to know. One is competition. A lot of entrepreneurs underestimate the analysis over competition. You need to know who's your direct competition, you need to know who's your indirect competition, and most importantly, you need to have a very clear cut demarcation of competitive landscape. If you're not able to figure out who's your direct competitor, if you're not able to figure out who's your indirect competitor, if you're not able to figure out what's the competitive landscape like, and most importantly, this will also give you give you an insight around the the crowdedness or the presence of other companies into that space. If you are building a business in an overcrowded space, again, no investor is going to fund you. If you are building a business in an overcrowded space, investors are definitely going to fund you. If you are building a business in a crowded space, investors are definitely going to fund you. If you are building a business in an overcrowded space, investors are definitely going to fund you. If you are building a business in an overcrowded space, investors are definitely going to fund you. If you are building a business in an overcrowded space, investors are definitely going to fund you. Okay, so sorry for losing the session, guys. I think the electricity just went off. I think I'm back online. You can see me in next. Uh, okay, perfect. Okay, so moving back to what we're discussing, and I'm sorry for the electricity failure. It might happen again, so just bear with me. I hope it doesn't go again. Uh, okay, so okay, let's get started back with the session. Okay, so what I was saying is another point or another thing you need to understand is the competitive analysis. I was saying you need to know the information around direct competition, indirect competition, and landscape, and then most importantly you also need to know and figure out you need to do the keyword research, which is like a basic Google search. There are hundreds of tools out there, whether it's Uber suggest or multiple tools like that. Again, I can give you a link to all these tools back into the description of the video later on, so you can go and refer back to all those videos and kind of get started. So I'll give you. I was talking about the overcrowded market space, if I remember correctly. So let me kind of quickly talk about the overcrowded market space stuff. So see, there are two red flags which you need to understand from the uh, overcrowded space point of view. One, if you're building the business, if you have a great product, but if you're building the business in an overcrowded space, for example, grocery sector, right? Nobody has emerged other than the external funding, and of course, Big Basket is also having tough time in tier 2 and tier 3 cities because so many local players are out there, and there's such a low entry barrier that anybody can get started. So if you are into the space or a sector where the entry barrier is very low, or there's too much of competition, like a grocery sector, like a laundry sector, uh, or like a rental sector, for that matter. I think nobody has emerged out to be the king of rental, especially in clothes sector. A lot of people have tried and failed that. So therefore investors, despite the fact the market is really really big, investors might not give you the money unless you have amazing team or some disruption, you have some disruptive technology or idea, right? Another thing which all of you need to understand, figure out, is that uh, the entire market is price sensitive. uh, so nobody gives technically a damn about how great of a product have you built. It is either about the price sensitivity uh, or image. So if you are going to buy a Mercedes or if you are going to buy an Apple, you do not look for price there, because you're buying something which is connected to your social status or social image. So when you buy an iPhone, you're not buying a phone, you're buying a status symbol. Similarly, if you're buying a Mercedes, you don't buy a car, you buy a status symbol. But in the highly crowded market spaces where the competition is too high and the crowd is too much, nobody gives a damn. I'll give you a very recent example that happened a couple of days back. One of the startups I met, they were trying to make a biodegradable packaging material. Now the problem, and they're trying to basically solve the right problem, which is that if they uh, the problem of pollution is too much in the country, in the world rather, and they want to eradicate the non-biodegradable thermocol plastic packaging material and want to supply the biodegradable packaging instead of that. Now the biggest challenge in this case is that if their price is higher than the existing product, this will eventually result in Okay, it should not happen now, I think. Okay, all right. So as I was saying, so if you are talking about the price sensitivity factor, right? So if the incorporation of their product leads to the multiplication or would increase the packaging rate, then it would become a problem for the customer, because for the manufacturer or the guy who is packaging the material. Because then what will happen is, if that becomes the case, if that is the case, then the overall chain would kind of have an increase in terms of price. I hope this is clear to all of you who are watching. So basically the challenge that I'm trying to tell you is that uh, if you significantly, to a larger extent, and therefore ultimately consumer has to pay for it, or consumer has to kind of bear the cost, which is not the right case, because the overall market is very very consumer specific or consumer centric, right? So if this makes sense to you, uh, all those who are watching, give me a thumbs up, because I want to again check whether my internet is working fine or not. I think it should be working fine now. uh and yes, then we move ahead. And I'm really sorry for this should get fixed by now. Yep. All right. Okay. So I hope this is clear to all of you. Pulkit, thanks for the questions, and Deepak, thanks for the questions. I'll come to your questions in quickly in a second. And I'm really sorry for the faulty internet today. As I said, I will make sure this is stable from the next time. Cool. Thanks for bearing with me, guys. All right. So now, now comes the most interesting part of today's session. So, and I have to come kind of come quickly if I can summarize for all of you guys. So we have kind of spoken about things that you need to consider while doing the market analysis, the important critical pointers that you need to kind of think about, uh, and the importance of market research and all these areas, right? Now, before I talk about the sectoral areas, the critical areas, the sectors you need to kind of look into and talk about, one of the very important and biggest role that one of the biggest factors that leads to the success of a startup is being at the right place at the right time, right? And no matter uh, who you are and what you do, if you're not at the right place at the right time, you will lose on the opportunity. So basically it's ultimately like capturing the correct opportunity. I'll give you two broad examples before I jump into the discussion, right? So if you look at the rise of Facebook in India, basically the one of the biggest reasons Facebook became so popular in the country was it was able to ride on the broadband bandwagon, right? So while the time Facebook entered into the country, the mobile internet, something like a m.facebook.com was coming up, was emerging. People were getting into partial smartphones, something like a that big Nokia 6600 or phones like that. And broadband was kind of the cafes were going out of the market, and BSNL and other companies were trying to incorporate and introduce broadband into the country, right? Similarly, we have seen for Swiggy as well, because the higher internet penetration and geo, a lot of companies kind of became popular and were able to ride the bandwagon. Of course, we have seen the similar thing happening in Corona times also. So let us look at a couple of latest example what happened. So the opportunity of getting TikTok banned led to the creation of lot of Indian companies and Indian apps like Chingari and Bolo India and Mitro and Roposo, wherein Chingari not just kind of was able to get millions of downloads, one a couple of millions of downloads, but was also able to raise 1.3 million US dollars in funding post TikTok ban. And before that ban, nobody knew even they existed, right? Similar thing happened for this app called Kaga Scanner after the banning of Cam Scanner. So Kaga Scanner led to almost 1 million download in a couple of days, a couple of weeks. Another very interesting factor all of you would have heard or if you would have seen very recently was uh, the launch of this app called 4G, which is Fearless and United Guards by Akshay Kumar, after the ban of Cam Scanner. So now I don't want to, of course, get into the discussion, debate, and the argument of whether it was pre-planned or not pre-planned, or how important or critical the timing was. But for any startup, again, if I think from the creator's point of view, which I always speak about as an entrepreneur point of view, uh, the timing and the opportunity is very important. So therefore, what are the opportunities and what are the hot sectors which are available for you guys to get into this space, right? So let me first talk about what happened in past 2 to 3 months in terms of opportunity space, right? So $552.5 million were raised by 27 startups in the past week only. $552 million. If I only look at the double digit investment, that means if I look at investments which are 10 million and above, 1 million is 27 crore. So if I look at or plus investments, the couple of companies that should catch your eye are Unacademy raising $150 million, taking its valuation to $1.4 billion. Eruditus, a Mumbai-based edtech company, raising $113 million. So top two companies who raised more than 100 million are edtech. Then Zomato raising almost $62 million, above $50 million. Food tech. Ghana raising $51 million, above $50 million. Uh, Entertainment or digital tech. Then Dunzo, $28 million, and Winzo, $18 million. All of these companies either belong to digital, edtech, food tech sectors. So all of these sectors are really, really hot. So now moving ahead, now let me present you, let me give you analysis, an example of couple of hottest sectors to get into and think about if you are a startup founder or if you want to get into the startup space. Another example before I jump is edtech company Byju's, right? So Byju raised $100 million, and then of course raising it, it was already a unicorn, and then it acquired White Hat Junior in a $300 million deal. So edtech is the hottest space. So therefore, I want to first talk about the edtech market in India. So if you are a startup founder watching this, edtech is the space to be in. Of course, the biggest challenge with edtech is that it has extremely low entry barrier. The market is now open post corona. It's overcrowded space. These are the challenges, but the opportunity is huge. The entire edtech market is almost like a $735 million, and it is going to touch almost like a $3.5 billion by 2020. And the user base has already doubled from 45 million users to 90 million users. So it's a hot market, and better internet, cheaper mobile phones, and cheaper laptops have made this market super hot. So what are the opportunities available for you? You can build a edtech company, you can build a company which is into content creation, you can build a tech tool that helps you in delivery of edtech, you can build a learning management system, you can make management tools, online classes. Biggest unexplored sector in edtech is vernacular content. If you, for example, I make startup content in English, there's a huge opportunity for a lot of startups out there who can tie up with me and help me convert my content into Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Punjabi, Marathi, and all those languages. So huge space is there into vernacular content. Then online testing, online mentoring, online counseling, upskilling, skilling, parallel career opportunities. We created a product called OnFlit during these times where we are exposing a lot of students to unconventional careers. We have recently seen a company getting funded which is into unconventional career counseling. So again, a huge sector. The edtech is an infinite sector. It's a recession proof market, a very, very hot sector to get into, and it's on the rise. If you are a startup founder looking for an opportunity, edtech is the sector for you to be in, the best and the biggest sector. Second sector that you should think or consider while getting into, and this is the basic research that I've done already for you as an example of market research. So use this data as a base to build your startup on top of it. And of course, go and do the validation, go and do the market research, build your startup on top of it. Hot sectors, this is what I'm talking about. Another hot sector is healthcare, medtech, health tech, health and wellness. So anything which is around, so nobody was talking about sanitization, nobody was talking about fitness, nobody was talking about wellness, nobody was talking about immunity 6 months back. But now everybody seems to be talking about all these pointers. So people want to sell you products which help you boost immunity or help you be well or help you be fit, because the coronavirus has created a lot of opportunities for people into this space. So if you are a startup into medical delivery, medicine delivery, fitness, yoga plan, diet, nutrition, anything which is which enables you to do online pharmacy. So sectors like online pharmacy, health management, healthcare management, fitness and wellness, telemedicine, medical devices, all of these factors, all of these sectors are hot when it comes to building a startup into healthcare space. We have already seen, and let me tell you the market research data. By 2020, the healthcare market in India would be worth $370 billion, and already Indian startups have been able to raise $500 million plus investment into this space. And another biggest reason is that even in the corona times, in the pandemic times, we have seen that Indian health infrastructure is hugely broken, especially into tier 3 and tier 2 cities, especially in villages and rural areas. It's absolutely broken. And even in the tier 1 cities, the services are difficult and affordability becomes another challenge. So, three factors that will drive healthcare in India in upcoming years is going to be accessibility, affordability, and quality. If you are a startup which can make healthcare accessible, affordable, and most importantly at a higher quality price, if you're able to deliver accessibility to high quality and affordable healthcare, you are the next unicorn, my friend. So this is the reason why you should be able to look at this space, right? Another sector which a lot of you watching this should think of getting into, and if you're an engineer, I think it's a easier sector for you, it's a low hanging fruit for you. Another hot sector is digital tools and digital technologies. So we've already seen Zoom getting like a 4000x user base multiplication, while in the corona times and pandemic times we have already seen it enough happening, right? And then there's enough competition from the international market. You have Microsoft Teams, you have Google Meet, you have Cisco WebEx. But you'd be surprised to know, if you do not know about this, that MeetY, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, under their Digital India initiative, launched a challenge where they were enabling startups, and where they were able to give them fund to build a made in India video conferencing app. And a company based out of Kerala, I think, V Console won the competition. And then there are enough companies already built by Indian entrepreneurs into this sector. So you have a company called AirMeet, you have a company called Video Meet, which has been built by a company based out of Jaipur. You have a company called Say Namaste, and most interestingly, our own Ambani ji kind of got into this space by introducing GeoMeet, right? So this is a hot sector to be in. And then of course, another space is SaaS tools, collaboration tools, management tools. Because of work from home environment, high speed internet is required, management tools are required, security becomes a critical factor. So if you're a security guy, if you're a service provider, if you're a digital consultant, if you're a cyber security expert, online bullying, online harassment, hot sector to be in. Collaborative tools like Figma, InVision became hot. So this is the sector. If you can build a tool like that, Canva almost grew by a couple of many fold. So that's another space. Collaboration and chatting tools like Slack, Discord, Flock became hot sectors. So these are another couple of hot sectors to be in. So if you are an engineer and if you're building a digital tech and digital tool, I think the space is definitely hot for you. Then another hot sector that you can get into is digital entertainment and digital content creation. We've already seen multinational companies in India, but our homegrown startups, homegrown companies like Hotstar, which was which is now acquired by Disney, MX Player, Eros now, Sony Live, Z5. We have seen a lot of companies, a lot of movies, and even typical theater movies, commercial movies getting launched onto these spaces. We have seen currently Sadak 2, and then that's Sushant Singh Rajput's movie on Hotstar. We have seen amazing series happening on Eros and Sony Live. We have seen Chintu Ka Birthday on Z5. So a lot of theater commercial movies are getting into all these platforms. So if you are into digital, so just to give you a number, digital content creation, digital consumption has grown by 4 times. And there's no stopping because of, again, cheap internet, high quality internet, cheap mobile phones, featured rich mobile phones. I think there's enough space available. This sector is hot. If you can get into digital entertainment, maybe building a platform that delivers digital entertainment or digital content creation, and then not limited to digital content creation in terms of production, but writing, script writing, shooting, and all those spaces, I think it's a hot sector to be in. And last but not the least, and then of course there are many sectors to talk about, but this is where I want to, no, of course, two more, where I want to kind of end, is rise of remote economy and gig economy. A lot of people will not hire full-time people anymore. A lot of people will not go for full-time jobs anymore. Everybody is working from home. So remote gig freelancing is a hot sector. So if you are a freelancer, it's a high opportunity time for you. If you are somebody who has built a tool for remote economy, economy, it's a huge opportunity for you. And last but not the least, two sectors or three sectors which are lying under the radar right now, but with time will be the biggest and the hottest sectors. Number one sector, and I have already given a hint to you before, the uh, uh, banning of PUBG has made the sector even hotter. It's digital e-gaming. So gaming in India is already a INR $118 billion sector. It's going to be $118 billion INR by 2023, and it's almost rising, almost increasing year on year at a 20-22% CAGR. So Asia Pacific accounts for 57% of this entire audience. And by 2024, India is going to be one of the biggest markets for e-gaming. And another driving force is the Indian youth, the aspirations, and the high penetration of internet and mobile devices. So if you are uh, an engineer, if you are an aspiring game developer, if you can make character designs, if you can design a game, if you can play a game, if you can test a game, e-gaming is under the radar. Trust me, it's going to blow up in coming years. Next 3 to 5 years, we'll see the rise of e-gaming in India, and the next rock star, the next superstar is going to come from this sector. Watch out for this sector. And if you're thinking of building a company or building a startup in this space, this is the right time. Maybe you can get into the space of e-gamer management, right? So something like how a company or agency manages celebrities, you can manage e-gamers. There's huge opportunity in the sector. It's under the radar. It's the next, forget it's the next billion, it is the $1 billion sector. It's hugely untapped. It is going to go on the rise. It's going to kind of blow apart in the coming years. Another hot sector to keep a watch is AR and VR. Till the time, like in past 5 years, a lot of people have been hearing about AR and VR a lot more. But now with access to cheaper devices, and now with a lot of people going remote, AR and VR is going to kind of blow apart. India already has more than 800 million mobile devices, and this sector is roughly going to be somewhere around 5.9 to 7 to 8 billion dollars only in India alone. So if you are a startup founder thinking to get into this space, AR VR is a hot sector, and then you can cross collaborate AR and VR in education, AR and VR in jewelry, AR and VR in interiors. There's a huge space available for AR VR developers and game and service providers. So yep, that's another sector to watch out for. And last but not the least, a sector that rules everything, that is never ever going to die, it's absolutely recession proof, is fintech. So whether we look at companies getting into the fintech space like Swiggy, which is now introduced a Swiggy wallet, Cred, which is now started giving the credit line on the existing credit rating of your credit card. A company like MoneyTap, which is giving you access to easy loans on just tap of a button, or companies like Grow and IND Wealth, which are selling you mutual fund via mobile application and want to kind of tap as many Indians possible who are the new generation with higher disposable income, and they can be low hanging fruit in terms of retail mutual fund investment, or companies like Khata Book who are now also venturing into giving loans and debt to their users, right? Fintech is a huge space. So in India, you should be blown apart by this factor that India has the highest fintech adoption in the world, which is 87%, which is by far the most, and the global average is just 64%. So therefore India is a huge fintech market, and India is again rising year on year by 20% in terms of fintech. So it's a huge market opportunity. If you are watching this, and if you have a fintech idea, build a company which is fintech, because fintech is the base, it's the money. Lending has the maximum potential. Companies like Razorpay have entered into this, and every day you find a new fintech company getting funded. So fintech is a huge space to watch out for. So again, summarizing all of these sectors together for all of you guys watching this: edtech, hottest sector of all; healthcare and then everything around healthcare, digital tools and technologies, digital entertainment, remote and gig economy; out of more emerging sectors, gaming, e-gaming, AR, VR, and to rule them all, fintech. These are a few hot sectors you should keep a watch out for, and you should be able to think and analyze much more deeply into these sectors if you want to build a startup. Fine. I hope this was insightful for all of you. This gave you at least the base perspective around what sectors to venture into, what areas to look for if you are thinking of building a startup. And if you do not understand these sectors but have an idea in this sector, my first advice to you would be go and find a sectoral expert, go and find a co-founder, and quickly do a market survey. The first mover has a lot of advantage because all of these sectors are hugely untapped. Okay, all right. So this brings us to the end of episode number 10 of Aim with DNK. If you haven't liked the video, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please, before I wrap and close this session today, I would sincerely request all of you to go and click that like button, hit that like button, and subscribe to the channel. Most importantly, I will really appreciate if you can go and share this channel with in your network. If you have watched this entire episode, you would have taken out some value from it. Please go and share it with your friends, go and share it in your network, and tell more and more people to support, to show love, and tell them that the kind of stuff we are doing here. So, yep, thank you so much for watching the 10th episode of Aim with DNK. Do let me in the comment section below what topic you want me to speak about. And of course, sorry, because I also have to pick a few of the questions you have asked for. So I'll try and answer that. And okay, then we can wrap. And last but not least, if you haven't followed me on Instagram yet, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, go and follow me on Instagram, go and subscribe to the channel. And now I will pick up the questions. All right. So Deepak has a question. Out of context, I didn't find any video on what we have to do after getting funding. Maybe okay. So Deepak, it's a very interesting question. What we have to do after getting funded? I haven't made any video on it yet. And I mean, which is the best way to use the finance? Yes, I think if I have to kind of give you a broad insight, I think creating KPIs, creating matrices, planning goals is important once you get funding, and that is what your investors would want as well. But yes, I haven't done any episode on that yet. I will for sure do an episode on that in the coming days. And I guess I also have to do the episode on equity distribution, finance, and all these things. And yes, that is the answer to this question of yours. I would love to see a session on equity dilution, shares, etc. Yes, I haven't done episode on technical terms. That's due from my end. I will very soon be doing that session as well. There's a question from Pulkit. I want to ask that as Amazon starting 30-minute delivery in USA through drones, I am thinking launch drone delivery in Indian urban areas. Yes, Pulkit, you can for sure do that. you will have to basically check the compliance with the government of India. I am not sure whether drones are publicly allowed. There's certain limitation in terms of usage of drones and drone photography and entire usage. I think you have to search on the internet and find what are the policies around flying drone in the country. I think you cannot openly just run drones or delivered via drones. And we have to become huge in this startup or business so that we an Amazon start drone delivery, or any no. I think it's a compliance issue, Pulkit. I think, as I said, it's a huge compliance issue. The first way to do, and this is the reason why I took a session of market research. This is where you, as an entrepreneur, you as a startup founder, have to go and do the research. Go and talk to potential stakeholders. See if you can get in touch with somebody from aviation ministry or somebody who under whom the entire drone compliance thing lies, and do some Google research around what is the drone policy in India. I think that should be able to give you certain insights as in whether you can do drone delivery in India or not. I think it is not yet legally allowed. Yep, and that's it. Only two questions, and yep, that's it. So, thank you so much once again for watching. If you like, please drop me. And okay, yeah, thank you so much, Deepak. Thanks for replying. And happy Teachers Day for obvious reasons. I really appreciate that, and I'm really, really thankful for all of you guys who stay till the end and who watch this session. As I said, I will be starting a new section soon about opportunities for all of you guys. So, yep, stay tuned. So, the only thing I can ask back from you is, like the video, drop the like in the chat, drop the like in the comment section. Tell me what you like about it. Tell me what new episodes, what topics you want me to cover on, and most importantly, subscribe to the subscribe to the channel. Go and follow me on Instagram, and most importantly, spread the word about it. If you like what I'm doing, if you like the content, if you like the information I'm giving you here, go and share and spread the word about it. And yes, if you have any more questions later on, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. And once again, thank you so much. This is where we wrap the episode number 10 of Aim with DNK. I will see you on next Saturday. Meanwhile, have a great weekend. And yep, that's it. Thank you so much. See you next time on Aim with DNK. Take care. Bye bye. Stay safe.